Hi, so this is Sydney. Just kind of tell us your name and age and kind of take us through what happened.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Sydney Ridlehoover. I'm 16, and I went into sudden cardiac arrest in 2017. So I was 13, and yeah, me and my friend we were going to the mall, so it was like every other day, and from what I've heard, I just like collapsed as we were walking into the mall. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have heard. And my mom started screaming, I think, like for help and everything. And there was an off duty EMT just passing by. And so I think he's the only reason I'm alive. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
I'm so glad that, I think it all just kind of happens for a reason. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you're here to save your life.
Yeah.
I know you said that you were walking to the mall and it just kind of happened, but do you remember if there were any signs that kind of hinted to it, like spread or anything like that?
No, I was like the most normal teenager ever. So yeah, there was nothing ever pointing to it. I didn't have any like conditions or underlying health issues. It's crazy.
I mean, how long did it take you, like, after your incident? Like, how was your recovery process like? Like, how long did you stay in the hospital? What was it like to kind of get back up on your feet and moving again?
So I was in the hospital for about 10 days, and I think most of it was just waiting for the surgery that I had to get the pacemaker type of thing. But my recovery process wasn't too bad. I kind of woke up and I didn't really know where I was, obviously. Um, but yeah, I bounced back pretty fast, I would say. And it was normal, I think.
Of course, it's still a very big experience and kind of very traumatic, but I'm glad that it was kind of considering some other people's recovery process. I think it was.
Right. Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest thing that you went through throughout this time?
Yeah, probably like just the fact that obviously I wasn't conscious when it was all happening, so I have no memory of like such a traumatic event.
Yeah.
When I kind of woke up in the hospital, I felt normal to an extent. So I was just like in the hospital, felt like for no reason. Obviously there was a reason, but yeah, it was just weird. And like telling everyone, like my super close friends, they were fine, but it was so weird to tell other people what happened because they're kind of like, what, you died? And I was like, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's a little surreal, especially like once you wake up in the hospital and you kind of don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and then someone tells you what happened, and you're like, your heart stopped. It's like, oh, that's good.
I think the scariest part about what you're telling me, like I guess for you, is that you had no underlying heart conditions. Like for me, I had arrhythmia my whole entire life, so it was still very unexpected. But I still like had something before. But to just be walking regular, going about, and just have your heart stop without like any reasoning behind it is
Yeah.
a little insane. um, After everything that happened, I know it's kind of very shocking to wake up in the hospital and go through all this and just kind of know that your heart stopped. Like, how did you cope with that? Did you experience like any depression after? Because I know that's very common. I think about 80% of survivors do. So how was it, I guess, like your coping process like?
Yeah, so I am very lucky that I didn't go through any depression or anything like mentally. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm over it. Like, I just want to go back to my life, you know? And so I think honestly that was my coping process, was just not denying it and not like pretending like it didn't happen, but like just kind of moving on. And I know it's not that easy for everyone that goes through it because it's a super scary thing. But honestly, yeah, my biggest coping thing is kind of making light of the situation and like, you know, yeah, it's a super scary thing. And I don't think I'm like denying what happened. I know what happened, but yeah, I just don't like being all serious when I talk about it because it's like, it makes me uncomfortable when people are like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, honestly, I think just like making light of it and just going back to my normal life as soon as I could and seeing my friends and everything made me feel a lot better.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I know everybody goes through, I guess, different stages of it. So I'm glad that you were just kind of, like you said, able to bounce back. I know that for, like, I guess especially my parents, whenever all this happened, it really affected them and my sister because she was the one present. How did it affect, I guess, like the people closest to you, like your friend that was there with you, your mom, everybody that kind of experienced it and like knew everything that happened? Like, how did they cope with it?
Yeah, so I think it affected my mom and the friend that was there the most for sure. Because obviously you're 13, you're just hanging out with your friend, you don't expect them to like die. And she didn't know if I was coming back, she didn't know if I was gonna be okay. Super scary for her. And then my mom was the one screaming for help, like she just kind of panicked, didn't know what to do. And with my mom and my friend was my mom's boyfriend. And so he was the one that called 911 and he kind of stayed calm, but obviously I think it was still hard for him. It was hard for everybody. And my dad wasn't even there. He was playing soccer. But my parents are divorced, so it makes sense. Like, I was with my mom this weekend. Actually, one time in middle school, like the year after it happened, my friends were all telling me like their side of what happened, like how they found out, and like they were like, one of all my friends were like, I just started crying. I was laying on the floor, like all I wanted to do was come see you, and it made me start crying, like in the middle of my study hall. But it's just kind of like it affected me, but not that deeply because I don't have the memories of it. But just hearing that and hearing how much they cared about me, just like I don't know.
I mean, you never expect somebody that close to you to like go through something like that. So my friends were the exact same way. Like I just remember like hearing the news and like all that happened. Like it's just scary.
I know, yeah.
So out of all of this experience, after getting to live to tell a tale, what was like your silver lining out of all of this experience? Like I guess for me would be getting to meet people like you that survived all through this and like getting to do stuff with my incident afterwards.
Obviously, I never really thought I would meet someone else like my age that went through the exact same thing. So that's honestly really cool. And it's super cool what you're doing, by the way. I think it's
Thank you.
cool. Um, so since I was in the hospital for 10 days, they gave me a make-a-wish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to go to California with one of my friends. We went to LA. And so that was a silver lining, I guess. And just honestly, it just puts like a whole new perspective on your life for sure. Because no one expects their life to be like almost be over at 13. So
Yeah.
I think it just makes me a lot more appreciative of like the fact that I get a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably the biggest silver lining.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way, like you said, just
Yeah.
kind of getting, like, we were so close. Well, we were literally kind of technically dead for a little bit. So getting that second chance to, I guess, be normal and be a teenager again really is probably one of the things that I'm most grateful about as well.
Me too, yeah.
After you went through all of this, I mean, I guess as a 13-year-old, like me as a 16-year-old that went through this, like I didn't know anything about sudden cardiac arrest. I thought that like stroke and heart attack were all the same thing. So I was clearly very uneducated about the subject. But after you went through all of this, like what was something that you used to think about SCA before that like now that changed your perspective after being a survivor and going through it?
Yeah, okay. So I thought the same thing, like stroke, heart attack. I didn't even know what sudden cardiac arrest was. If you told me what cardiac arrest was, I wouldn't have known. Um, but I think me and like everyone else, not everyone else, but like it's a really common thing to just think that that just happens to old people. Like it's just that it's never gonna happen to me. I'm like a teenager. I'm super young. So that's definitely changed. Like obviously it can happen to anybody, but I think that's the biggest thing that's changed. Is like it doesn't just happen to old people. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, I was always like, oh, I'm very healthy. Like I do sports because I thought like I knew that heart attack always had to do with like cholesterol and just being very, I guess, like unhealthy. So I was like, oh, I'm very healthy. Like even though I have a heart issue, like nothing's gonna happen. So I mean, for you, like I said, you didn't have any heart issues previous to this. Like
I
that's
mean, I had a fast heart rate, but it's never been like concerning to that point. So
some people have fast heart rates and never go through this. So it's just very unexpected. I think that's the scariest thing about it, that like you just don't see it coming. Like with heart attack, like some people have like their left arm hurts or like they kind of feel out of breath, but sudden cardiac arrest is kind of like boom, like
no warning.
yeah. So now that you are a survivor, what would you say to someone that I guess just experienced it and is probably maybe still in the hospital, like what would you say to someone that just survived sudden cardiac arrest and they're kind of like struggling to cope with it? Like what would be your best advice?
Honestly, the coolest thing to me was like, I think from the American Heart Association, like 90% of people don't survive. So if you did come out on the other side, you're very lucky. And like the fact that you get a second chance is crazy. Just like you just survived something so crazy that a lot of people don't. And I think, honestly, I think that's something to be proud of because it's just like, it's cool, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
And yeah, it's a super scary thing, and I know that, and not everyone's gonna cope with it so lightly like I do. But yeah, I think it's just the coolest thing is like surviving it, and like you kind of have to think about that. Like you're so lucky to still be here and everything. So
Yeah, I think I would probably say the same thing. The odds are very against people that go through this. So, I mean, to get to tell your story and still be here today and I guess get a second chance at life is pretty amazing.
yeah.
So, like I said, now that you're a little bit more educated about what sudden cardiac arrest is after going through this, what is something that you would like to shine a light on more? Like a stigma or anything that you learned that is kind of like very like I guess like riveting to you that you just wish to bring more attention to?
Honestly, going back to the thing that like it can happen to anybody, and like half the time, I don't. Well, actually, I don't want to say half the time because I don't know, but a lot of the times it's just so sudden and like no one's ever prepared for something like that. So I just think I would want people to know like it could happen to anybody, like whether it's you or like a loved one or anyone close to you, no matter if they're like 85 or 12, it can happen and it's scary. So I think it's just something to be aware of. Um, yeah, and CPR, learning CPR. I had to do that.
Yeah, me too. I had to do this. My family didn't really know CPR. I took like a basic health class in my high school, and that's just about what I knew. So I mean, now, like you said, you're very big on being like thankful and very grateful for everything that happened, like that you're here. Is there anyone that you want to give like a special thank you for, like the EMTs, your mom, your friend?
Yeah, all of them, honestly. Um, the EMT especially, I've never met him, and I don't think I can because it would, I just start crying and it'd be so surreal. Um, but obviously I'm probably the most grateful for him because he's the one that saved my life, and like the fact that I don't have memory loss or damage, like permanent damage, like I can live my life pretty normally for the rest of my life, which is crazy. And my mom for bringing so much attention to this situation. And honestly, just all my friends that like stuck by me. It's such a weird like thing that no one expects to happen to you in what like seventh grade. They were super cool about it. Like they made sure I never felt alone.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess that's all of our questions. If you have anything else to add, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this.
Thank you for the opportunity. Super cool.
No, anytime. I mean, you're a survivor. I think it's very important to kind of like get to share your story because I mean, you overcame this big feat. And so I hope that like hearing your story and how positive you are and how you bounce back so quickly will hopefully help others. Um,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.